Hello, my name is Leon Kozio. I'm in here today to share with you a very special holiday message. Some of the issues I will raise will be very difficult to bear during this particular time of year, but I think it is very important for those still burdened by parental alienation and those trying to navigate through a court system that is still very anti-family. I'm a parent advocate who practiced law in federal and state courts. But I'm also one victimized from my exposure of court corruption. As a result, my livelihood was destroyed and my precious daughters alienated from me. I am therefore well positioned to address this phenomenon known as parental alienation, and I'm here today to give hope to fellow victims. So stay with me. It's worth your time. This video may lead to parent-child reunions, or at the very least, prevent harm to families and future generations. It verifies that you are not alone in your struggles. Parent alienation is now a national crisis, and the courts that cause it require overhauls. But it requires much more. We must unite to get our Justice Department to open a human rights investigation. Because federal funds deliver such outcomes, Congress must also step up with public hearings to justify misappropriations. Child custody has become a pay-to-parent scandal, as I will elaborate. To that end, I need your help to bring parental alienation to the forefront of national policy. All of us have a stake in this, whether or not a parent, because the injustices harm extended families, healthcare systems, community interests, worker productivity, education, and law enforcement. Yes, parent alienation has reached crisis levels, but it is being ignored as part of a lucrative framework for adjudication which still infects our divorce and family courts. Judges there end parent-child relationships with little or no cause to serve the growing demands of a lawyer glut that has invaded our society. There are now more than 300,000 lawyers in California and New York alone, anxious to advance their fee interests. There is scant accountability for the greed they generate through needless conflict, and the resulting carnage is ripe for public outrage. But we have to channel that outrage to achieve overdue reforms. To begin with, it should be no shock that any conscientious attorney who makes a stand against his profession will be targeted. My whistleblower activity elicited horrific retributions, which I seriously underestimated. Their brazen nature can be explained by the gold mine that I was threatening. Despite my unblemished reputation and principled litigation for more than 23 years, I was deprived of my children, assets, and income capacity while subjected to inflated support obligations to justify a jail term for violations. It left me alone to pursue recourse in creative ways, including a stint in Paris, France. With that behind me, I can now proceed with undivided loyalty to a joint mission because there is little else that can be done to scare me off. I will get to the hypocrisy of family judges shortly, but for now, let us look at those who facilitate parental alienation. Despite being charged with the duty of dispensing justice, protecting our liberties, and assuring equal treatment, there are too many judges violating that duty when they turn a blind eye to this crisis. But make no mistake, parent alienation is a legalized form of child abduction, fueled by profits and revenues. If you're a victim, you already know that these abductions are real. When your offspring are seized by your own government, a part of you goes with it. You then become isolated, dreading these festive holidays because of the pain they bring you. Like a solar eclipse, the lack of love or contact with your children darkens your spirits and may lead to dire reactions. Parent suicides, homicides, and child murders are on the rise. This carnage stems from an antiquated child custody system derived from a day when moms stayed home and dads worked. In contrast with the shared parenting models, custody laws require parents to fight over their offspring for a winner-take-all award. It can become a brutal contest that pits loved ones against each other and their government, breeding new forms of evil. Despite a professed concern, judges welcome these battles because they are rewarded by the number and size of support orders they issue. This comes in the way of federal grants that few know about under Title 4D of the Social Security Act. We're talking billions of dollars annually in revenues for the states and astronomical fees for service providers. Like the tobacco, drug, and tech industries, you are merely their pawns, collateral damage to quench unmitigated greed. Sure, you can complain endlessly on social media to wannabe lawyers with voodoo advice, but no one with influence is paying attention. So why aren't these judges, lawyers, and service providers being held accountable? Well, for starters, you have to recall that judges are lawyers on the bench. Because they wear robes and enter tribunals with great fanfare does not eliminate that reality. As for oversight, a single statewide commission that meets sporadically is routinely overwhelmed. Reports show that California and New York investigate only 10% of complaints. It's mostly window dressing, as the band plays on. Beyond that, it would be a hypocrisy for judges to admonish their own, a blemish on high office. So let's examine a much greater hypocrisy on that high office and its ethics. My custody judge, Brian Hedges, was banned from the bench after admitting to sexual abuse of his handicapped 5-year-old niece. What sort of thought was he harboring while interrogating children in private chambers? I was fortunate to have him removed from my case before my girls could be traumatized. His replacement, Michael Hanushak, was then exposed for sexual harassment of his court clerks. Yet another, Gerald Popio, was censured for threats and racist remarks from the bench. A record 40 trial-level jurists were removed from an originally uncontested divorce. Although much of this can be explained by proper self-recusals, others abused office to discredit my public message. Mine is only one case. How can you know if your judge is taking a bribe to fix a custody case, as Gerald Garson and Thomas Spargo were in New York, both apprehended by chance and convicted? Or how about Michigan Judge Wade McCree, who impregnated a litigant in chambers? He was exposed only because he was a married man. The adversary in that case then sought recourse, but was denied on grounds of judicial immunity. It begs the question, is judge adultery in court a protected act? Seriously? Then there's the Kids for Cash scandal in Pennsylvania, and the list goes on. But now let's turn to the victims. Thomas Ball, a father and veteran, burned himself alive on the steps of a court to protest extended separations from his child. No major outcry, no national exposure. They merely swept his ashes into a sewer. Joe Longo, a police investigator, exited support court only to secure his own justice by committing a murder-suicide at the former marital home using a common kitchen knife. It left 4 children without parents and a permanent end to child support. Walter Scott could no longer endure recurring terms in a debtor prison, so it was no surprise that he ran unarmed from a support warrant at a traffic stop. But it was a shock when the cop gave chase and elected to shoot his target dead 5 times in the back. That cop is now doing time in federal prison. Police officers should be doing police work. Instead, they are being exploited as debt collectors. It raises another question of whether government is now killing for money. Without a concealed bystander and video, this cop would have gotten away with his false reports. Only last month, Chad Reed was also shot dead unarmed by the boyfriend of his son's mother. That killer interrupted an argument between the parents during a child exchange at her home. Such arguments occur every day across the country. But now, picking up your children can become a scene from a Wild West, as the killer's lawyer claims self-defense under a no-retreat law in Texas. Is it any wonder that many parents today are walking away from their responsibilities? Yet another form of alienation. A human being can handle only so much court insanity, only to be blamed for it with costly psychiatric evaluations. And how about the children who are supposed to be protected by these courts? 2-year-old Gabriella Boyd was murdered by her mother in 2018 rather than surrender to a custody change order. She is now serving a life sentence. 8-year-old Thomas Valva died of hypothermia due to the abuse of his NYPD father last year. And 2-year-old Kira Franchetti was victim of a murder-suicide by her father, who burned down their home. A news reporter disclosed that more than 700 deaths are not publicized by child protection agencies. This holiday season, countless moms and dads will be denied contact with their little ones. Meanwhile, parent alienators will be working overtime to brainwash them to hate the other parent. Their motivations are boundless and often psychotic. Here at my websites, YouTube channel, publications, and reform efforts around the country, you can obtain highly qualified options for taking action to stop the carnage once and for all. Judges, lawyers, and politicians only respond to numbers and influence. First, visit my personal website, leonkoziol.com. That's LeonKoziol. You know the drill. Put the 3 W's in front of it and the .com after. Here you will obtain updates and valuable information. There is no legal fee for this. You can also subscribe to my talk program, Leon's Library, on YouTube. Second, log on to the Parenting Rights Institute website. The programs there focus on mediation, self-help, and strategies to keep you out of these courts. It may save you thousands in fees. Third, in dire matters, contact the Citizen Commission Against Corruption, a nonprofit doing the job of oversight agencies. Precedent litigation is among our weapons. Your donations are tax deductible, without which we cannot fight highly influential special interests. Fourth, my newly published book, Whistleblower in Paris, provides education and intrigue. It can be obtained at any Barnes & Noble store, Amazon, or major bookseller online. Fifth, I have published a citizen petition against parental alienation on change.org. All you have to do is sign it. Short and simple. Finally, you can join any of the reform events I sponsor around the country. They include a 3-day gathering known as the Parent March on Washington. I hope to repeat that event sometime in the near future. In 2019, it featured a lobby day in Congress, expert speakers at a hotel ballroom, a march down Pennsylvania Avenue under police escort, and a candlelight vigil for those lives lost in these matters. Currently, a networking program, Amber Appeal, is underway to provide information regarding absentee children. Spread this holiday message, a genuine gift for countless victims. You can also contact me directly at 315-796-4000. Again, that's area code 315-796-4000. Thank you, Merry Christmas, and God bless.